All right, go ahead and say your name, your name and your company name, Rob.
Yeah, my name's Rob Larson. I'm with General Plumbing Supply, and I do technical support and training.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the HVAC ADHD Vodcast. I'm here with Rob Larson from, Rob, tell us your company name.
It's General Plumbing Supply.
General Plumbing Supply. I met Rob at a MeasureQuick train the trainer, and he seemed like an interesting guy, and he has an interesting story, and he's one of two distributor representatives that were at the training, so I'm super interested in his take on MeasureQuick and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, hey, Rob, how's it going?
Good, Jeremy. Thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here. And before we begin, let me just say thanks for your gift.
Oh, you got it. That's awesome. Yeah. I tried to get everybody in the class one. I hope everybody got there so far.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
A couple sizes we didn't have, but yeah.
No, you're good, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You're a man of your word. Promised the shirt and I got it. So cool stuff.
Appreciate that. So tell us a little bit about what you do, what your distributorship sells, what brands you have, what services you service, all that type of stuff.
So we're a Luxair dealer of equipment, which is a product made by York. They just recently was bought out by Bosch. So as they move forward, they're going to be a Bosch company. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet. We have our first meeting back here in November of this year. So we'll know more details as far as how that transition is going to go with us. But as of right now, everything basically is the same. I'm dealing with the same contacts at the factory, stuff like that. So, yeah, we have a dealership that we have, dealers that we support through the product. They hired me as a tech support guy and a trainer. I do have an assistant, Zach, who helps out with those tech calls and training that we do here at our training center in Piscataway, New Jersey. So yeah, it's good stuff. So that's kind of what I get involved.
I think that's pretty exciting though, York Bosch, because Bosch is such an innovative company and they have such an innovative product. To be able to combine theirs with the York distribution and the reputation that York has as a solid American-made piece of equipment, I think that's exciting for you guys from a technology standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where it's going, right? So from what I understand, Bosch really pushes, not that Luxair didn't push the training part of it, because I've been at the factory a couple of times, and they really kind of keep you up, make sure you keep up with your training and make sure you keep up with training for your dealers. So there's required hours per year with your dealers to make sure that they're up to date on what's going on, and they kind of track it. So Luxair did a good job with the training side, but I think from what I understand, Bosch will even do a better job. So Bosch is going to be more the training side of it, which we all need.
There's a lot of guys at the top level of our industry right now that are doing a lot of innovative things with the Bosch product. And on LinkedIn, you'll see there's a couple guys, a friend of mine, Tim, and a couple other guys that have really latched onto that Bosch brand because of the versatility of their inverter and their non-inverter non-communicating inverter products. And I'm actually going to be commissioning my first Bosch system next Monday. I used it in one of my designs, and it kind of plays into this conversation a little bit because the thing that we all thought was really cool, the streaming feature of MeasureQuick, we're going to be using so that my friend Tim, who knows everything about Bosch and how to commission it, can be seeing what I'm seeing while we're doing the commissioning, so he can help me dial it in, so to speak. So that's pretty cool. Tell me, so we met at MeasureQuick. What got your attention about MeasureQuick? What got you in that class? What path led you there to the MeasureQuick thing?
So again, I was hired about 7 years ago out of the field. So I'm close to 42 years in the field. Love it. I whistle to work every day, Jeremy. I love this field, even as long as I've been doing it. And one of the things that we did here during our training, so one of the unique things I have is I get to take a technical call for the most part, right? And as these tech calls come in from our dealers, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize maybe these guys are struggling in certain areas. So I've collected those tech calls and I've created classes to focus in on what the guys are having problems with. And My findings actually is more of a technical problem, because most of the guys we deal with are technically sound. They know what they're doing. They're good tech guys. They got some basic stuff for the most part. The biggest challenge I find that they're facing is kind of like the therapy part of it. Like, I feel like I'm a therapist, because
That's hilarious.
they get so caught up in everything other than what the problem is. They lose their sequence of operation, which I like to call it, right? Because they start at A and then they wind up skipping B and C and they go to someplace else. And I'm like, no. Don't, keep your path, keep the sequence. Don't skip anything within your sequence. If you stay within your sequence, you're gonna find a problem, right? Whether it's be a technical problem or an install problem, right? So what MeasureQuick does, which I love, and that's one of the things we started training here, MeasureQuick allows you, it takes you step to step. It doesn't allow you to skip a step, right? So that's what I loved about it, and that's kind of where my focus is right now, is to make sure I implement MeasureQuick within our dealership, so when they're having challenges, they're using the same information that's required for me to be able to give them technical support. So, and then from the training side of it, what I found prior to MeasureQuick, what I found myself doing was teaching guys how to do static pressure tests, teaching them how to do gas pressure, heat rise, temperature rise, refrigerant checks and stuff. And for the most part, when you separate those types of training and you basically teach somebody how to do static pressure, if they don't understand what it means and why they're doing it, it falls apart. They don't retain it. So I realize when I do individual classes just to teach them individual stuff, they don't retain it as long as they should. So what I started thinking about was, well, listen, what's our ultimate goal is to fill out a startup sheet, right? When it's a new commissioning or a new install.
Sure.
So I brought startup sheets into every single one of my classes. So I'd show them whatever we're learning has to go within this startup sheet. So that's basically my training. I started over 2 years ago, where all my training had to do with startup sheets. And startup sheets could relate to service too, because most service guys go in there and, I'm going to just fix the problem. And they might find a wire burnt off, fix the wire, and they move on. And they shouldn't. They should start just like installs do. Start at A, cover everything so that you don't miss anything. You might find other problems while you're there. And the last thing you want to do is have a callback. So that's kind of where we changed with MeasureQuick, is allowing me to change the way I train so that everything's step. And one of the things, I'll get an opportunity to show you our wall of equipment and different things. And one of the sayings up there is learn the sequence, rule the world. Right.
Right.
So,
Order of operations matters, right? I mean,
exactly.
I preach it. Like, you can't set your refrigerant before you set your airflow. You shouldn't put a heat pump in before you look at the load of the house. I mean, there's a whole bunch of little nuances that order of operations fall into where they really matter a bunch. How do you see MeasureQuick? Like, you touched on it a little bit, but how do you see MeasureQuick directly training, like your training sequence in where you said you had the startup sheets? Like, take that away. How does MeasureQuick replace that with the guided workflows? Is that what you're planning on teaching through, sort of like how Joe taught us?
Yeah, what I like about MeasureQuick is you can go anywhere, right? You can do the startup, where you could do the step by step, or you could just jump in and focus on one area, whether it be airflow or temperature rise or whatever, which I like. But one of the things, especially with these guys that just don't understand all the numbers yet, the biggest challenge is getting the probe placement, right? Joe always talked about probe placement is the most important thing. And I try to tell, especially new students that are newer to the field, listen, learn where to place the probes and don't worry about the measurements. Just learn how to get the measurements. Because if they write all the measurements down and they don't know what it means, like they got all these numbers down and they're looking at it, not sure what it means. Well, yeah, the first few times you do it, you're not going to understand what it means. But as you write these numbers down and you start getting a pattern going with the way the numbers are coming in, you're going to see challenges. You're going to say, wait a minute, that number seems high or low. But you'll learn what the numbers mean. We could always teach you what the numbers mean, But if you give me bad information in, we're not going to get good information out, right? I can't help you with bad information.
Oh, that's a fact. Everything, it's so funny. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a load calculation or if it's a pressure measurement on the commissioning side. It's all garbage in, garbage out. Like, if you're putting bad information in, the result could be anything. And the funny thing is, a lot of guys in this field want to lean on bad numbers. They're like, oh, it's the number I got. I did this, I did that, and it's the number's the number. But their information going in was all trash. It had nothing to do. It doesn't represent what's really going on there. So the numbers coming out don't represent it. So that is one thing I think MeasureQuick does a good job of kind of getting in front of, because it gives you a lot of warnings when it sees screwy stuff. So it's easy for the techs to get in their mind like, hey, yeah, maybe that's maybe this number. You see a warning over and over again enough times, you're going to start understanding that maybe you're doing something different. Or you're doing something wrong and you need to do something different. Do you see? I see in the industry. And I mean, this is just the way the industry is structured a little bit, but there's a lot of shops that isolate install and service, and the install guys don't ever really, some of them don't graduate, we'll say, into service. Like, that's a little more technical. Do you see MeasureQuick changing that dynamic a little bit, where we can see more cross training in shops because of the way MeasureQuick is set up and the ease of understanding what's going on? And in their little marketing, they say we make a junior tech a senior tech. Do you think that is going to help in shops where the install sort of isolated? I see some guys where they're just like, oh, I do install, we're gonna have to get service in here, and they can't diagnose the problem until the service guy gets out there. You think MeasureQuick changes that game a little bit?
Oh no, that's a really good question, Jeremy, because that is the biggest hang up when I talk to these guys. And right now, believe it or not, I seem to get a mixed message. So some companies do bring their service guys in after the fact to do the startup, but majority of them say, look, I don't have the resources to do that. I can't just pull a guy off a service call to have, it never lines up. The timing's never there, because by the time the installers are actually done with the install, they're looking to turn a switch on. Most guys are just turning switches on, just, all right, it's working, we'll get the service guy here within the next day or two to actually do a commissioning, and that's not always the best option to do that. So it's going to be interesting, but I believe it is going to be, MeasureQuick will definitely be a tool that installers could use. They just need to learn placement of probes. They don't have to do the math. If they can place the probes after they do their install and run it for 15, 20 minutes, get that recording, send it to their service manager. He can look at that, have a picture, a snapshot of what's going on with that system, whether it's low charge, overcharge, whatever the challenges are. And they can either make adjustments there on the fly and tell the guy, hey, you're grossly overcharged, you're undercharged, let's do this to move forward until a service guy can get out there, or maybe they can just continue with that start up and install and just move forward if everything passes. So that's a very good, interesting question that I'd like to propose to most of my dealers and see how they would move forward with MeasureQuick.
I think that there's a lot of value in putting something to bed day of. Like I'm ADHD per the name of the podcast, and if I leave stuff hanging out, sometimes it never gets taken care of. So I've been taught myself over the years, one thing, anything that I can make into a sequence that I can get done in the same day, I do. Like, for instance, when I was doing green inspections, a lot of guys would take all the pictures, take all the information, and then they'd go home and then some days later get the report out. Like, that's how I was trained up. Like, for me, that never worked. Like, that report never got out after that. So I would have to go. I ended up leaning on technology and figuring out, hey, if I just take my computer into space, I enter everything in, right into the computer right then and there, boom, when I walk out, I send the follow-up email right from the house, and when I walk out, that thing's done. Like, I have nothing else to do. And I look at this install service thing, like, that is goofy to me. It's something that's went on in the industry for some time, but not having the guy trained to close the deal right then and there. And some of them, like you said, there's a lot of them that do. They train their install guys like whatever their process is, it's done when that guy walks out the door, good, bad, or otherwise. We're not saying the stuff's working right when the guy walks out the door, but their process is over when the guy walks out the door. MeasureQuick, I think, gives guys an opportunity to put business to bed the same day. send a report to the homeowner the same day that says your system's operating the way that we expect it to, and here's everything that says it's like that, and here's where the benchmark is on your system. Boom, Mr. Homeowner, here's your report. That the people at the office, their job is done the same day. That job's filed, however people file it, and everybody can walk out and feel good about it. And the best thing about it is you shouldn't have any callbacks. If you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, then that should be a solid pin in the job. That should be done, and you should not have to worry about that for the foreseeable future. That customer should just be experiencing the comfort and everything else that comes along with that system. So I think that from me and you and anybody that's doing training, I think it's a little bit of a training thing. Like, we need to, like you said, I'm going to pose that question to my guys. Like, beyond even posing it as a question, we need to say, look, man, this is really how this is meant to be used. This is a tool for your installers to walk out the door and feel good about what they did the day of the install, and you never have to think about it again because you know that it got done correctly.
You know what? That's the ultimate solution is exactly the way you described it. That is what if I had a vote, I would vote to say that's the way we're going to move forward. Okay, so you nailed it. I mean, that's what we need to do. We need to deal with it right there. And the example, just the other day, I had blood work done on a Thursday. I had blood work and went to the doctor. They took blood. In 24 hours, I had the results on my phone. Right? So I'm reading my results, which thank God it's all good stuff, right? So it's all normal blood work. My doctor calls 3 days later to tell me, oh, you're normal. But I already got the report, Jeremy. So I was like, okay, thanks for calling, but I didn't really need you. Yep. So to your point, if we're able to do that, where in the past, blood work would take weeks to get back. They're not doing that anymore. It's within a 24-hour period. You're suggesting, and I agree with, is we're suggesting you do it right on the spot. Look, you're done. Boom. Press it. Send it. That's the results. There's nothing to fudge. There's nothing here. This is what the results say. These are the measurements we took. Here's your results. Let's move on.
Yeah, so and I think that's more money in our pockets than anything, just getting that done and that customer taken care of. It's so funny that you use that analogy. Like, by the time this airs, I have a blog. I just put it up. I haven't rolled it out or anything. It's going to go along with a little concept that I created to try to market our trainings. It's called your HVAC superpowers and why you may not have them yet. And it basically that piece of it is like conduit tech. There's a new software out that a guy that I met and I've been dealing with named Winston Chi. He has a software called NoSo, and it's basically an HVAC AI assistant that does a whole bunch of things. It plugs into Service Titan. It'll talk to you on your way to your job if you wanted to, give you a summary of the job. It has 15 million pieces of HVAC paperwork programmed into it. It has the biggest database of HVAC manuals that's ever been created. And so it'll allow you to basically while you're doing a service call, if you take a picture of what you're looking at, or if you say what it is, it'll find the document that supports that and show you what you're working on. So it's really robust solution, and it has an always-on feature that basically throughout the service call or throughout the install, it records everything that's happening, and by the time you sit down at the table with the customer, it has a nice proposal or a nice summary of service printed out for you, so that the guy doesn't even have to do anything, and anything the customer's talked about is in there and addressed and everything. So it's super robust. So that, and then MeasureQuick, I'm saying my concept is these three things are your HVAC superpowers, because the load calculation done with conduit tech housed in your ERP gives you a permanent record of how anything that can affect the HVAC system from a house perspective that would be exerting pressure on the HVAC system would be doing it. You know what the load is in the perpetuity. If they get new windows, all you have to do is put the windows in and change the load, so that sort of thing. And then with your ERP, your Service Titan, and your NoSo, you have a permanent record of what went on at all these calls. And then MeasureQuick, you have your system benchmark. So all of that basically creates X-ray vision for the house. You know what I mean? It's like these three things are your HVAC superpowers. Using them the way that they're intended, these 3 or 4 pieces of technology give you superpowers that we didn't used to have. We didn't even have it 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like we're in a really amazing place. So in that blog, I referenced my chart. I'm like, one, the ERP records, like my chart from your medical records. As soon as you go home, you can look in your medical record and you can see what happened at that call. And that is the way we need to be looking at doing business in this era, because that is what this era of technology demands of us. Like these kids that are coming up and buying homes and everything else, like they're used to that type of record keeping and that type of instantaneous response, and they're not going to want to fool around with a guy that has to dig through or send somebody out to give them, little basic pieces of information. So I just thought that was really cool that you also brought that same exact analogy up.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great stuff. Listen, I was out in the field for years, right? So I'm a younger tech. So whatever, I look at my experience when I tell people, it's 40 plus years, but reality it's not, because the first 20 years is in a museum somewhere. That's information, it's garbage today. So I have probably just as much experience than a 10 or a 15-year guy, right? Because the technology changing so fast. So these are the things that I point out. So I'm constantly learning every day too with these guys, and I share that information. But being out in the field for as long as I have, and when you're out in the field, you're doing service, you're a lonely guy, man. You're by yourself, you're in a truck. Most of my conversations with myself, right? We didn't have all the phone technology we have today.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So I'm graduating from that, and I'm thinking about it. I'm saying to these guys, you have MeasureQuick. Do you understand what that means? You have an iPhone or a Droid, an analog, whatever phone you have, and you have MeasureQuick on it. That's like having a partner next to you, a really smart partner, right? So it's going to take those days that you're not 100%, and you got a guy who's never going to let you down. He's always there. That's MeasureQuick app on your phone. He will always be with you. So when you have a question, you have a measurement problem, or if you have a brain fart and you're saying, what does that mean? Why is my subcooling here, my superheat here? Like the numbers aren't adding up. And MeasureQuick will be there and say, hey dude, relax, calm down. Take this measurement again and we'll figure this out. So you literally have a partner with you through MeasureQuick, in my opinion, and a very smart and a super. You said it, right? The word super. Super. So you have a super partner next to you within MeasureQuick, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a wild time. That's for sure. Like it's a wild time. What do you think the biggest challenge in the industry is right now? Like overall, like if you had to pick one thing, what would you say the biggest challenge we face in the industry is?
Well, listen, I don't have to begin to tell you about manpower. I understand that's every field. Ever since the computer bubble burst, right? Like everybody wanted to be on a computer screen, sitting at a desk in air conditioning space. I get it. Nobody wants to be in an attic. Nobody wants to be on a roof. But for the last couple of years, I'm hoping the trade, especially this next year or so, I'm hoping more guys get the opportunity to go into the trade and start learning this trade. And with the tools that are available, it's not as hard as that it used to be, where we had to really figure things out. Now there's a lot of support within the field through apps and the phone use and just tech support generally. And manufacturers seem to understand what the techs are going through. They're making the wiring schematics a lot easier to read. They're color coding it. They're actually putting what the wires mean. In most manuals, in the service manuals, you do have a sequence of operation. It'll tell you, hey, in heating mode, this is what happens, or this is what's supposed to happen. So they're giving you a lot more information than they've had in the past. It's like going from the road maps that we used to read to get from one house to the other to using, Google Maps, where it's telling you, make a right here, make a left there. It's going to find you the shortest route. So it's all cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Love the conversation. So it's all good stuff.
What is your training schedule look like? Do you see anybody that have good? Well, that's not really what I meant to ask. This is what I'm asking. Training for the guys you deal with, do they have solid apprentice programs, or are they bringing guys up through the trades, or what do you see there as far as like the contractors you're dealing with?
So I'm seeing more guys out of high school. They're hiring guys just as bodies right now that are eager to learn. They want to work with tools. So that's a good thing, right? You have to be able to at least do that, right? So we do have a group coming in, and they basically did that. They lost a lot of their good techs to maybe guys that were paying a little bit more, And in the residential market, you're limited on how much you could pay a guy, right? There's only so much money. Guys want to make, $80 an hour. You're just not getting that in the residential field.
Yeah.
So you're getting guys that are coming out of high school that are more than happy to make 25, 30 bucks an hour, starting. So those guys are looking at this saying, hey, great. How do I learn it? How do I figure it out? And I'll tell you, I've had one of those students come in and we did a one-on-one class with him I wanted to see how he was going to respond to MeasureQuick. So we kind of introduced MeasureQuick right from day one with this guy. And I said, listen, this is important. These measurements are important. You have no idea what they mean, but if you can learn how to take these measurements, put them into the software will tell you more than you'll ever be able to tell you. Your software will tell you more than your service manager will tell you. So I thought that was a great opportunity for that guy to learn something, learn a field in a short amount of time, right? I can't give him 40 years of experience, but I could give him just summarize that 40 years and just say, hey, here's the information you need to know. You'll understand why. That will come later when the light bulb goes off when you figure it out.
Do you think that's this is super interesting to me. You just said something that turned a light bulb on in my head. So what you're saying is we can take guys out of high school with a little bit of training. We can put MeasureQuick in their hand or a similar app, depending on what they're doing on the sales side. Conduit Tech, I think, would work the same way for training a sales guy up. But let's just talk about MeasureQuick. Take a guy out of high school, no trade school, because there's certain, and we need more of this, but there's certain high schools that have what's called Oaks programs where I come from. They're called different stuff, but they start teaching trades right away as part of the curriculum and working them in. But this guy, let's say he did not have that. He just came out of high school, you hired him, and you want to get him going in the field as quickly as possible, clearly, because you need help, right? You hired a high school guy because you don't have manpower. So putting MeasureQuick in his hand, do you think that how soon is that guy where you feel good enough about what he's doing out there with MeasureQuick that you can let him go, so to speak, without sort of, having a leash on him?
All right. So again, that's going to be a tool that they can use once they get past the safety ends of it, right? So we need safety. We need to talk about pressure with refrigerant gauges and gloves and safety glasses. We have to get them. We got to make sure we put them in an environment where they're safe, right? We're dealing with
their universal to be useful. So let's say let's say they have their universal at a minimum.
Yeah. So we get them past that, Jeremy. Yeah. I think you're going right into MeasureQuick. Once you're able to hook up gauges and put some pro placements, you're in MeasureQuick. There's no reason why you shouldn't be, in my opinion. There's no reason why you shouldn't be. Why not learn to fly with the instruments that are going to make your job easier, right?
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time, and I actually went for my pilot's license. I went through some training, and of course they want to start you with manually. They want to teach you how to manually fly because instruments fail. I get that. But in my head, it's like, let me use the instruments because the instruments are going to help me fly. You know what I mean? They're going to tell me, hey, if you go at more than this degree, you're going to go into the ground. You know what I mean? If you start floating away this way, it's going to make adjustments. So I want to learn by using the tools because the tools are going to tell me what's going on. And then I think the manual part, the guys will actually start figuring it out, right? They'll start saying, well, wait a minute, that measurement, before they even put it into the app, they'll take a measurement and say, that measurement seems to be off. Well, why? Because the last 10 measurements they took in that similar situation were not those measurements. So now they're starting to get a routine, repetition, right?
Yeah.
And that's all we want to have these guys do. So why not start at day one?
Right? I agree. And for me personally, the way I learn, that's how I learn anyway. You put for test and balance, for instance. When I started test and balance, the guy set a big old Ned thing down in front of me, boom, here's everything, you need to read this whole manual and pass this test and do all this stuff before you get out in the field. I never got through that. Finally, they're like, here, we need you out. They put me out there. I started holding hoods and turning dampers and doing all this stuff. Pretty soon, the stuff in the book started making sense to me because when I went back to filing, when I had to finally go back and get certified, I had already done the stuff 20, 30, 40, 100 times. You know what I mean? So then it really was just, even though I understood what I was doing out there to get paid, to make everything work and to do what we needed to do, I didn't really understand the math. As a matter of fact, the engineers that I worked with, he'd be like, don't worry. And it was actually good. I didn't like that he did it at the time, but he'd be like, don't worry about the math. He's like, that's just a number. We know what it means. This is what you need to do right now. This is what goes in that blank on that sheet and all that. And I hated him doing that. I felt like he was talking down to me at the time. But later on, I came to realize that he was doing me a favor because we just needed to get through the job and get it done. And it wasn't going to I could sit down and do the math all day long. It wasn't going to make sense to me right then and there anyway. So learning what we were doing and then going back and learning the math and everything behind it for me, that worked out great. And that's just the way I learn. I learn by doing. And I think a lot of guys that come into the trades, they come into the trades because they learn by doing. They don't want to be sitting in a chair. They don't want to be sitting in a classroom. They want to get out and do stuff with their hands, and they can pick it up. And I think there is value, exactly what you're saying. Like when guys learn like that, we put MeasureQuick in their hand. The cool thing about MeasureQuick is not only are they doing, but they're also learning a little bit too, because it's telling you, this is wrong and this is why, and there's little hints. It's not full school, but it's in the field school enough to get a guy, acclimated and going. So I love where you're going with that. And I think that even at a high school level, if we could get into some of these high school trade schools, and even let's not even get into just HVAC school in general. Like that thing needs a whole entire overhaul. Like it's guys going through all the refrigerant stuff, all the universal stuff, and a little bit more electric and stuff that you need, the basics, but there's no technology introduced. There's no modern concepts introduced. Like there's no load calculation stuff introduced. There's no airflow, real talk about airflow in the class. Like none of that stuff is taught. It's all stuff that you have to either learn out in the field or go learn on your own. And I just think that from an educational standpoint, the way we teach HVAC needs a big overhaul for the modern kids.
I agree, and you're right about majority of us guys in the field. We learn, well, here, I can be honest with you. I learn, if I have to read something, I have to read it 3 times. At least 3 times to understand what the hell they're talking about, right? And then I have to do it. I have to physically do it, right? Yep. So there's a few guys out there that'll come into the class and they'll be book smart. I mean, these guys have the answers for everything. But you go to have them hook up gauges? You want to see a fish on a deck flop around? These guys, I'm like, wait a minute, what do I want? Do I want a book smart guy? Do I want a guy that can actually hook up gauges?
Yeah.
So you're in that battle too, to your point, but thank God majority of us are that way. We want our hands-on, we want to learn it. I don't mind the book smart guys. We could always convert them to actually do the physical work and understand it, which it's just levels of knowledge, right? It's each of us learn differently, right? So, but I'm okay with that. But to your point, we do tend to, want to work with our hands more. And we do every opportunity I get, I try to do on the job training. Like if I get a group of guys that want to meet on a job because they're having problems or they want to learn something, hey, let's go for it. Now I do a lot of stuff at the training center, but there's nothing beat real life stuff. And I tell contractors, the owners of contractors all the time, listen, don't think you're going to send this guy to a 40-hour school and he's going to come out and be productive. That's not reality. Reality is send him out there. He may not be totally productive the first 40 hours, but I'll guarantee you after that 40 hours, he's going to learn so much doing it, physically doing it, that he's going to be productive the following week. So we just have to.
Or you're going to know it might not be the right fit. I mean, that's the other thing too. Like this, it's not for everybody. Just like everything's not for everybody. So you get a guy out in the field for a couple weeks and he's struggling mightily. Then maybe he does, either need some additional training or maybe the position's not right for him or something like that. So there's a lot of value of trial by fire. I mean, that's how I learned most of the stuff that I've ever done. I've learned trial by fire, and I guarantee I probably wasn't doing what I thought I was doing in the first place for the first 20 to 40 hours of doing it. I probably did everything completely wrong, whether I knew it or not, So.
Oh, yeah. I tripped a lot of breakers in my early days.
Oh, man, dude, I'll tell you what, I have some people that don't, are not used to doing what we do. They think it's crazy, but I've tripped out a whole side of a hospital before up on the roof messing around with a fan. I just, you're up there when you're first learning to take your electrical readings and stuff. That somebody doesn't tell you, don't let this thing hit metal when you're putting it on. It's gonna trip. And it's literally because of when I learned tab in the biggest setting you could ever learn it in, like giant hospitals. That's all. Like when I was a tab helper, that's the company I worked for. That's all they did was like hospitals and giant universities and schools and stuff like that. And so like, and the guys are like, get up there and do it. Like here, you worked with us here. Here's what you do. See you later. Bye. And then they turn around and leave. And so I was so scared. I called the boss and I'm like, I don't know what happened, but this whole, side of the hospital just went dark. He's like, don't worry about it. I'll call them. I'll get them back up. I'll get them to get it back up. And he called the maintenance guys, and they went and untripped the breaker and stuff. He's like, don't do that again.
You think? Yeah, we're not. Yeah. I didn't mean to do it the first time.
Yeah, but stuff had to the point. You just got to go through it now. I didn't ever do it again. I mean, I learned it's like putting your hand on the stove. You're definitely never going to do that again, like some stuff like that. As long as you don't kill somebody, I think or kill yourself, one of the two. I think it's probably a good lesson learned.
Yeah, I got all my fingers, thank God. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another thing. I have all my fingers. I did smash my pinky. Like, it's still flat to this day in a pulley. Like, in doing tab, I was trying to go too fast, and instead of loosening stuff up, the tension on it, I was trying to pull the pulley on, the belt on the pulley, and without loosening the tension, I pulled it right over my finger and just... Ow. Boom, flat, and it the tip of my finger just exploded. Blood went everywhere. It was not fun at all. And I had to, it was like the day before Thanksgiving, and I wanted to get out of there. I just wrapped it up in electrical tape and kept going, dude. My doctor was so mad at me. He's like, don't you ever do that again. You get in here if you got something this bad going on. He's like, you like your finger, don't you?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Good stuff. So, I think we're running up on our time. I want to give you a chance to showcase your shop and tell us about, shout out anything you want to shout out. Let people know who you are, what you do, and where to come to find you at. What your next few trainings are, anything you want to say. Feel free to tell everybody.
Yeah, well, we have some training stuff going on. Samsung training next week, September 10th. We're going to have a trailer here, Samsung trailer that's going to show a bunch of product on the trailer itself. We're going to do a mini class in a training center just to teach guys like simple things like, when you talk about hooking up the wires to those terminals, they, all the guys just strip the wire down, they'll put it on, tighten up the screw on it, and it's like, no, it's in the book. They want you to use a ring terminal, right? So the ring terminal with the crimping tool right on the wire, so you crimp it, and now you have a solid connection you put under the screw, tighten it up, done. So we're going to actually have like tips on how to install these things so that guys can say, oh, all right, I didn't think of doing that, because they don't read the book, right? And it's but these are things we're going to show, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Just a quick little 30-minute class just to give guys quick tips on, hey, here's the tools we're using to make it work when you're installing these mini splits, because the communication wires and all those connections are important. So stuff like that.
That's the Swiss watch piece of it, you know what I mean? Like, that's literally before, we weren't ever thinking that way, man. You know what I mean? Guys were twisting wires and nuts and going on about their business. Like, what you're talking about is such a good example of the precision that is required in the installation of this modern equipment. Rob Falk or Dominic, somebody from NCI, I forget which one it was, said a great analogy that he's like, it used to be, we were working on Timexes. These days we're working on Swiss watches. He's like, the things are not the same. It's not comparable. And I'm like, I agree with like that little thing you just said. So important, but also probably overlooked 97% of the time unless somebody's pointing it out to them, just like you said, because it's in the book. It's not taught, really. It's not a thing you can learn.
Yeah, we stay basic. I'll see if I can give you a quick little tour of the place. I am at the training center now, and let's see if I can make this work.
Okay.
And the way we set up our training is don't have a lot of equipment per se. We just take equipment, strip it down, throw it on a wall. You can see up there, there's the HVAC playground.
Love it.
And I actually have something running over there. I don't have a long wire. Maybe another visit we could do, I'll set it up with a camera that we can actually tour each facility.
Okay.
But I'll just give you like the 360 version of what's going on. So this side of the room is our hands-on side, and then the other side is where our students will sit. I could fit about 30 guys here comfortably. We have boilers over there, and we have a Weil McLean boiler without the boiler, right? We just have all the controls that go to it, and it works. We put power to it, and it works. And there's our wall of fame right there. That's the wall that, you know, all these social influence guys and MeasureQuick, all the stickers that are out there, we kind of put on that wall.
Love it.
So that's kind of like a quick little tour of our facility here.
Are you MeasureQuick official yet? Are you Joe approved yet?
Yeah, I have the certificate. And,
No. I mean the lab. Remember that thing he sent us for the lab? Like, this is the basic requirements for a MeasureQuick lab.
Oh, I don't know if I'm there yet. I do have some stuff that we could use to measure stuff. So I may not be there. I gotta double check that. But we're starting to listen. We're getting to a point where I might. I asked our sales guy, the sales director for HVAC, to go to our dealers and say, look, if as part of being a dealer for Luxair, got to have MeasureQuick. We're going to promote MeasureQuick. I don't care if we find a way to co-op it or figure out how to buy the program to get these guys to use it.
Yep.
But when they're doing commissioning or startup or service and they're calling us for tech support, dude, it's like it's like I should just have been a dentist and just started pulling teeth, because I think it would have been easier than getting information out of these guys. Because, you know, we started talking about it earlier, Jeremy, about just taking measurements. Give me, what's your voltage? And then I'll get an answer like, oh, it's 208, 230. And I'd just be like, God, why don't you just pick one? Because it can't be both.
Yeah, you're like, so you're not reading the voltage, you're reading the nameplate? Okay.
Right. So now I know I know what the amps are going to be, whatever the amps on the nameplate is. So I don't need you to read that to me. I need to physically take it.
You're like, that's not the reading I was talking about, but okay.
So I always ask them, what's the digit, right? So it's got to be like, you know, 210.9 or something.
Right,
I always ask them for that point something, because then at least I know they can't make that up.
Yeah, that's how in tab engineers hate. You know, when I was trained in tab, they're like, engineers hate round numbers. Even if it's a round number, put a decimal on the end of it, because they're going to question if it's a round number.
But no, I listen. I'm so excited about MeasureQuick. I really am. I'm looking forward to getting our guys into it and showing them. My assistant tech support guy, Zach, he's downloaded the app. He has it. We have our instructors version. So we're really promoting it this year, going into it, and hopefully in 6 months or maybe the springtime here in New Jersey, you and I will have a conversation about how well it's going with our dealers.
Oh, I want to hear. Yeah, well, let's definitely do a follow up. I would love to hear what you guys are doing once you get it fully implemented and you get training programs set up with it and stuff like that. I think that, you know, this is all brand new. Like, even the guys that came before us, nobody's really doing full on MeasureQuick training. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Brian Feeney and Huff, those guys are doing big MeasureQuick trainings, but in most of the industry, there's not a lot of people doing full MeasureQuick training like you're talking about. There's a guy, Colorado Johnstone or Pennsylvania Johnstone, one of those guys. They have a pretty robust MeasureQuick, and they're like pushing it. You know, all our techs do MeasureQuick. I personally write it into my, like, on the design side, because, you know, I'm not a distributor or anything like that,
Right.
but on the design side, we write it into all of our specs. So that way, you know, whoever, when the thing goes out to bid and it comes back, guys are always like, this contractor wants to know what this MeasureQuick thing is you got written in here. And I'm like, okay, well, then this is, you know, then I get to explain to them, this is what it is, and this is why we want you to use it. You know, if you don't have it, you know, it's one of the requirements of installing our design. And that way, guys are forced into it, because I know once they use it once, they're never not going to use it again. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that a guy that knows what he's doing and values what he's doing, once they buy all the probes to do it and use it, they're not going to put it back in the bag and not use it. They're just not. You're going to love it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's great that you're implementing within your program and what you're doing. I wish manufacturers would figure it out, and I know why they don't, because nobody wants to add more restrictions on contractors to do certain things, because they're all afraid, well, they'll just go buy from somewhere else. but they really collectively should get together and say, look, find a commissioning software. And I absolutely promote MeasureQuick as being a commissioning software to
1000%.
utilize
Yeah.
and to offer additional labor warranty or extended parts warranty if you fill this out. If your system's commissioned with MeasureQuick, here's the benefit that you're going to get from the manufacturer. So if they don't do it, we got to figure a roundabout way to do it like we're doing it. Hey, you want to be a dealer for Luxair and buy equipment from us? Here's what we're requesting you to do. Now, I can't put a gun to your head and tell you to do it, but I'm going to encourage you to do it because we're going to come up with some incentive to be able to get them to do it. And listen, ultimately, it's going to lessen my load and my assistant's load on silly questions and challenges that they're having out in the field, especially when they're setting up, they're installing equipment in undersized ductwork. I mean, how many times I get calls about it? It's like, guys, your static pressure is like 1.5 points or whatever. It's too high. Like, what are you doing? You got 4-inch ductwork. I mean, what are we doing here? And these are things that they should figure out. The sales guy should be figuring out before it even gets to the install.
He said he wanted a little air over there.
Yeah, right. So it's good stuff, and I really appreciate you reaching out and having this conversation. And I'm looking forward to, like you said, the follow-up on it and making sure that, hey, where do we go from here,
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get ready to get out of here, but this is one thing I ask everybody before they leave. If the world was ending tomorrow and they ask you to write on the wall some advice for the next generation that comes after the civilization is reestablished, what would you write on the wall? What's your one piece of advice for the industry, for the world? It doesn't matter. What would you write?
To take every day and as a challenge, every day in your life, so that the day that you take your last breath in this world, that you're going to say, I've done everything I could up to this point. I did what I wanted to do up to this point in my life, that there's nothing I left behind. And that's pretty much it.
I love it. Love it. All right, Rob, thank you very much.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you.
Absolutely. Love it, man. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.